Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Waters, and I am live here in Syracuse, New York. I'm happy to be here. I'm part of the CNY Fertility and CNY Healing Arts team. Happy Wednesday. Today, I want to talk briefly about emotional resilience. And I have a lot to say about this subject. I hope that I can condense it in a way that is useful for you and that makes sense. Um, it's a very interesting subject because emotions are similar to food, right? I mean, we have to eat to live. If you're alive, you have emotions, right? Hopefully, a full range of emotions. There's a movement out there now, which some of you have probably heard or read about. It's the toxic positivity movement. And I think it's worth analyzing that because not everything is good. Not every day is good. We know that bad things happen to good people and good things happen to so called bad people. So, where do you find yourself in this sea of emotions and trying to become more resilient, especially those of you that are in the middle of your fertility challenges? How do you maintain a certain amount of enthusiasm so that you can keep going on your journey? So, I think we have to start by asking ourselves a couple questions. Um, one of the questions is, what are emotions first? And do you really want to change? And if you do want to change, why? Ask yourself, why do you want to change? Now, a lot of people use this word karma. Um, oh, it must have been her karma. We use that a lot. If something bad happens, rarely do we use that term karma if it's good, right? Oh, she won the lottery. It must be her karma. She must have done a lot of positive things in order to accumulate the good fortune of winning a large sum of money or an IVF cycle, for example, or the ability to conceive or not conceive, whatever it is. So we tend to use this term when negative things happen to either good or bad people, good or bad. I hate to use those terms because it's so dualistic, and mostly everybody's a combination of all of that, right? So just for the record, the way that it's been explained to me that word karma, first of all, it's a Sanskrit word, right? So that means we're using it in an English context and it doesn't translate well. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but if I was, I would have a lot more to say about that word and what does it mean. So a lot of people think that it's cause and effect, right? So we hear the word karma and we think that it is cause and effect, like I said. You take out the trash for your neighbor, and then later you win 20 bucks in the lottery and you think, oh, I did something good. And so therefore something good is going to happen to me. And it absolutely could be true. That's a very simplistic version of cause and effect. The truth is, we really don't know when negative or positive things are going to accumulate in our life as a result of whatever action could have happened in this lifetime. If you believe in past lives, we don't know. The people that I find have the most beneficial karma or experience in their life do positive things for others without thinking about the return that they're going to get. It's very instinctive response, right? And so many wonderful people have that. We see that all the time, and we really need to cultivate that as a culture, especially right now, depending on where you live. There's a lot of negative things happening, and I think that people are reluctant to go with their instinct to stop the car, get out, help somebody change their tire, or give them a ride because of things that have happened. So we need to be very cautious. Um, Obviously, going forward, we really need to be cautious in our own mind as well, so that we are not planting seeds of more negativity going forward. So the word karma, the way it was defined to me, actually means correction. The Tibetan word is cho. I don't know the character offhand, but the word actually means correction. So, where is the correction? Where does the correction begin? It begins in your mind, right? And this is where our emotions begin. Now, we know the character for the mind is the same as the heart. So, you're not necessarily thinking your emotions, you're feeling them, but they're very interrelated. Right. So the correction begins in our mind. And that is the place to begin where your resiliency is going to begin and end. So I like to think of, well, my own story. Anytime that I'm feeling down and out, I think about people that are more resilient than I have been. For example, people that are innocent and sitting on death row, right? If you read Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, your eyes will be opened quite wide to the injustice of the legal system. And these are amazing people that are able to examine their life in a way that most of us don't get the opportunity to. It's very real. And this is a place where toxic positivity would not be good. We have to be able to meet people where they're at. And if you're in a situation like that, or you have just been diagnosed with something terminal, or you have lost a child, or something that's extremely challenging, we have to be honest about this. And you have to allow yourself to have the full range of emotions. Now, what happens after that, whether it's the next day, year, decades, is really up to you. You get to choose how you are going to go forward with that emotion. I feel the most interesting people that I encounter are the ones that have had the widest range of emotional experiences, right? It's what shapes us into who we are, it's what allows us to be um, a more creative, fulfilling, successful person is our range of human emotional experiences. And I have the wonderful opportunity and honor of treating a lot of people. And I always ask people personal questions about their life, their career, their families. And it's so interesting to me in a family of 10, for example, one person will be able to get out of a negative situation, whether it's poverty or addiction or a certain mindset. One person in the family liberates themselves. Why? What makes that person different? How do they choose that they want to get out of that mindset, that emotional rut, and the other siblings don't? And I have my own personal theories on that. I don't know if anyone else does, but it's worth looking into. Okay, so back to how do we become more resilient? First of all, what are emotions, right? They are temporary. The average emotion, I believe, lasts 60 seconds or so. They are based on your past, right? So, five people could be standing in the rain. Each of those five people is going to have a very different experience of the rain. Some people, one person may say, I hate the rain. Another person loves it. And one person would say, thank gosh, it's raining. I finally can wash this mud off myself, right? So these are perceptions, right, that lead to emotions that are personal. And it's based on your past, right? So you have to realize that. I find there's lots of techniques for changing our emotions, whether it's acupuncture or tapping or breath work or meditation, which I call concentration practice. There's lots of things. So we know how to change our emotions. I don't know that people really understand fully why and what they are. And so I guess the next question you have to ask yourself is why would you want to change your emotion from a negative state to neutral or possibly neutral to positive, right? Very rarely when I ask somebody to go from negative to positive, it's a big leap. It doesn't have to be a great day, but it has to be Wednesday because that's reality. And that is the flat line. That's where we're at, right? So if you're having a very bad Wednesday for whatever reason, let's just try to get to Wednesday. Okay. From there, that's kind of the fertile field, we call it. And you can cultivate whatever positive emotion that you want to, whether it's gratitude, joy, peace, bliss, enthusiasm. Um, that's depends on you. One thing that I have found very helpful in changing my emotions, I have to admit, I came out of decades of negativity for a lot of reasons. And it's been hard work for me to outgrow that pattern. It's probably went back for many generations. I didn't realize that I was as negative as I was. So the first step is recognizing. Now, remember, part of how we become resilient is we receive the feedback that people are going to give us that love and care for us, that makes us want to cry or break things, right? So if somebody gives you feedback and says, listen, hey, the way you responded yesterday to that store clerk really made me feel uncomfortable because they didn't deserve that, whatever the situation is. If that makes you feel that sting inside, that burn where you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed or whatever, that's good. This is where I feel true spiritual practice is. You lean into that feeling and you stop and you breathe into it and you examine it. And in the readiness of time, whenever you're ready, you take a step back and you see most likely what they said is true. Okay. So you had a negative response to a situation that you could have responded to in many other ways, right? So that's the first step. Recognize your error, recognize where you went south, and then realize that your response is creating your future, right? How you respond to a situation is actually co-creating the next situation, right? And that's the thing. That should be the good news. That should be the very good news. You're co-creating your life, right? And it's based on your thoughts. This is where everything begins and ends right here. The problems and the solutions are in your very own mind. So if you can recognize what's going on in your mind, examine interactions that you've had through the day, through the week, see where you can improve. This is the correction, right? This is karma. This is the correction where we change our mind, where we say, I'm going to do it differently next time. And that feedback really caused me to react to such a point that I need to examine that. And I'm going to lean into that uncomfortable moment. And this is how you become resilient and say, okay, I'm willing to examine it. So, if you believe that your negative emotions and your negative thoughts are creating your life, then obviously you're going to want to make them more positive, right? Because everybody wants the same thing in life. We want to be loved. We want to have unconditional love. We want to feel supported. We want to have families. We want to have prosperity. Everybody wants the same thing. So, if that's the case, then it's well worth your investment to examine your triggers, learn some techniques for overcoming them, and apply the cure. And remember, there's so many tales of overcoming. TED Talks. I used to listen to a lot of the Moth Radio Hour. Amazing stories of people that have survived stuff that you can't even imagine. And so here we are complaining about the weather and complaining about the dry cleaning and complaining about having to wait in the waiting room. Honestly, give me a break, okay? Seriously, people have real problems out in the world, and we become very insulated to the wider reality out there. And we have to step it up and become more resilient and participate in the change. Do you want to make the world a better place? This is a question I ask myself and a lot of people regularly. And if the answer is yes, how are you going to do that? It begins with your thinking. You can send out thoughts and prayers regularly to the people next to you, to the drivers next to you, to random people in the waiting room. Find out what happens when you start doing that. I've done a lot of experiments with that myself, and it is amazing what happens. Very cool things happen. So experiment with that. I find knowing the opposite of the feeling. So let's say anger, for example. So let's say you have a lot of anger and frustration. Um, if you don't want to have that, what are you going to replace it with? So that helps me a lot, is knowing the opposite. So the opposite of anger is patience. My least favorite thing to develop is patience, but it is well worth it if you can do it. So you want to get to a place where not it becomes very difficult to ruffle your feathers, okay? Resiliency means adaptation, being able to adapt your mind, your thinking to the environment that you're in, which is reality, the reality that you're in. Learn to adapt, okay? Um I believe that is my words for the day. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was, excuse me, two things. You're the only one that can do this for you. Okay. You can have therapists, you can have Reiki practitioners, you can get massage, you can do all this wonderful stuff to support you. At the end of the day, you are the only one that is going to save you. Okay. You want to change your life, change your mind, save yourself, rely on yourself. You must develop mind that you can take refuge in, for example. That's one way of putting it. So that should be a relief, folks. You don't need anyone outside of you to save you, okay? And you have to develop some willpower. Will in Chinese medicine is related to the kidneys. We can ask the question, do our kidneys become weak over time from stress and diet and lack of sleep, and therefore our willpower is depleted? Or is it the reverse? Our willpower gets depleted because of our thinking, because we become lazy in our thinking, and then our kidneys start dysfunctioning in a way. Or does it happen simultaneously? I don't know that it matters that much, but applying the cure matters. So develop willpower, okay? Develop some enthusiasm for willpower. And the emotion behind the action really helps. If you want to be successful at whatever you're doing, you must connect the emotion with the action to have the most potent outcome. Got it? All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts on these subjects with you all. And I hope to see you soon at 191 Intrepid Lane. Okay, have a great day. Take care.